The luxury compact crossover market is very competitive in the US, to a point where we have vehicles that are performance-oriented, tech-focused, luxurious, and very upscale for this particular market. A lot of features that were once reserved for larger SUVs are now making its way into the sub $60,000 price range. Well, today we'll be taking a look at the all-new 2025 Audi Q5. This vehicle goes head-to-head with the BMW X3, Mercedes-Benz GLC, Alfa Romeo Stelvio, and Genesis GV70. But more importantly, in the Audi lineup, this crossover has huge shoes to fill, because the B9.5 generation, I'm going to say, is probably the best gen we've ever had from Audi for this compact crossover. And for the B10, there's a lot new here, not only aesthetically, but also the platform and technology. We're going to have a lot of fun today with this model. In today's video, we're going to check out what the new B10 has to offer. We're going to check out the exterior, the interior, take it out for a quick test drive, and see why, if you are looking at buying one last compact crossover with a gas motor under the hood, maybe taking a look at the 2025 Q5 might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Audi of Norwell in Norwell, Massachusetts, for letting me come down here to check out the Audi Q5. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Audi inventory. So as always, let's begin with that pricing. For the 2025 Audi Q5 we have today, this is the Prestige, coming in at just over $60,500. This will be the top trim for the B10 generation, much like we saw for the B9.5. Now, if you don't need a well-equipped model, you don't need all the technology, feature comforts, or amenities, you can opt for the premium at just over $52 grand, which is very competitive with the BMW X3 and Mercedes-Benz GLC. I also think it might be the pick in the lineup this year, because the new B10 is giving you a lot to work with, not only styling-wise, but also performance as well. But since we have the Prestige today, we might as well go over everything this generation has to offer. But before we check out the interior and also even talk about the styling, we had to discuss the new platform the B10 is sitting on, because the B9.5 was utilizing the MLB Evo platform, which is quite legendary even now, just a few years removed. With this new B10, it's sitting on the PPC platform, also known as the Platform Premium Combustion, which is going to be very similar to the e-tron products in the lineup. And you see that with the design. Now, dimensions-wise, nothing changes, surprisingly. Usually for most manufacturers, if you change a platform, the vehicle gets larger, longer, wider. That isn't the case here. You still have a length of 184 inches and a ground clearance of 8.2 inches. And better yet, since we have the Prestige, we also have adaptive air suspension, which will raise the suspension in off-road mode. So somewhat versatile here for 2025. I don't think it's necessary though, because you're not going to be going off-road with this vehicle for obvious reasons, since you don't have any cladding here to take on those elements. But with this new platform though, there might be some more refinement, there might be some more rigidity, and also a lot of similarities to the Q6 the Q5 is kind of based on here. So up front, you are going to receive full LED headlights, no surprises there at all. And I have to say the design is somewhat subdued and maybe even a bit more conservative in true Audi fashion. Now, some of these aesthetics that you are seeing here on the Q5 will make its way on the A5, but I think that for the Q5 and in crossover form looks a lot nicer, and it's mostly because we had that Q6 to compare and contrast to. You're going to notice the gloss gray front grille, which blends right in on our model today, and that is an aesthetic taken from that Q6, and you're also going to notice a new Audi badge there as well. For the lower portion of the front bumper, you are going to have active side air curtains, or should I say functional side air curtains, for better aerodynamics and maybe even helping out with that overall efficiency. And then for the lower portion of the front bumper, you're going to notice more front intakes as well to help cool off that engine. Then as you make your way over the side profile, no cladding here for the wheel arches, so it's very luxurious, very upscale, and similar to that B9.5 generation. With the Prestige we have today, we are going to be sitting on 20-inch alloy wheels. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be complaining about that, saying, well, larger tire size might create a lot more road noise. But even though we no longer have the MLB Evo platform, the PPC platform is going to surprise in regards to refinement. We're going to talk about this later on during the test drive. Also found on the side profile will be a side blade that's in gloss black. We saw that with the Q6 as well. You'll have color matched side mirror caps with turn signal indicators to go along appliance with detection for added safety, and carrying over from last generation is the brushed aluminum accents outlining the windows and also for our roof rails. Then as you make your way around to the back, you are going to notice the full LED light bar that runs the length of the rear fascia, which we're seeing a lot of now from the Audi product line. I think it looks classy, upscale, and sophisticated. Yes, it does look like a Q6 from far away, but I'm perfectly okay with this in crossover form. For the lower portion of the rear bumper, you're going to notice the dual exhaust outlets here. So Audi did learn their lesson here. They are functional, they're not part of the bumper there. I love to see that. That to me is probably the best aspect for the design of this model compared to the B9.5. But honestly, all in all, I think what Audi has done here with the B10, they've kept it clean, they've kept it conservative, and also very stylish and contemporary. Powering the Audi Q5 we have today is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 268 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, and we also have a 48-volt mild hybrid system, not necessarily aiding in overall efficiency, but helping out with the smoothness and refinement of this powertrain. Now, I know a lot of you will be concerned about this 7-speed dual clutch because dual clutches can be quite clunky. However, with this new generation B10, this dual clutch is actually quite smooth to go along with this 2-liter turbo 4. So I think a lot of you will be genuinely impressed and surprised with the performance for the Q5 for 2025. Also, the healthy boost in that horsepower and pound-feet of torque makes this very competitive with the BMW X3 and Mercedes-Benz GLC. As expected, we do have quattro all-wheel drive today, giving us better year-round capability and versatility, and pairing up very well with that 8.2 inches of ground clearance. But probably more importantly is going to be that fuel economy. You're looking at right around 22 miles per gallon in the city and 30 miles per gallon on the highway, which is very standard for a vehicle in this market, almost identical to the BMW X3. So if you're looking for something a bit more efficient, you might want to go with the plug-in hybrid, or possibly maybe even that Audi Q6. Hopping inside the Audi Q5 B10 for 2025, you are greeted by an all-new interior that I don't want to say is a carbon copy of the Q6 because I've made that reference way too many times today, but it basically is. There's really not much of a difference in regards to the technology, dashboard layout, and even the touchpad on your driver's side door. I mean, everything is pretty much the exact same, and we're seeing a lot of this now in the automotive industry. Since we had the Prestige today, you are going to receive power adjustable, heated and ventilated leather trim seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side having 2-position memory for added convenience. With this being the Q5 and not the SQ5, these seats are very plush and comfortable, but I wouldn't say they're aggressively bolstered or supportive in that way. When you are in the corners, you might be swaying around a bit here, being behind the wheel of this crossover. But then at the same time, I do find myself quite snug here due to my body frame and size. So it comes down to what you're looking for out of your next luxury compact crossover. I think the support is very good though. So on those longer road trips or weekday commutes, you will not be dealing with any type of fatigue here, being behind the wheel of the Q5. Really, though, the name of the game for the B10 is the technology that, in my opinion, I don't necessarily like, because the Android-based software is a bit of a step back compared to Audi's MMI user interface and also Audi's virtual cockpit. Typically in this market, Google-based software or Android-based software is a plus. For Audi, they've always done tech very well, and I don't know if it's a step forward for this new B10. We'll discover all of this in a minute. On the door controls for the driver's side, you are going to have your touchpad here and touch-sensitive icons for your lock and unlock buttons, also the icon that adjusts your outside lighting, just like we saw with the Q6, and then your buttons and touchpad that helps you adjust the outside mirrors, and then your 2-position memory seats. Now, in front of you will be a leather-wrapped steering wheel, which feels really nice in the hands. No aggressive 10-2 or firm 9-3 gears, which I'm actually genuinely surprised by, because the Q5 has always been somewhat sporty here, even though it is more tech-focused and luxury-focused. Audi has always given you something a bit more enjoyable for the on-road driving experience. However, we still have paddle shifters here. Also on the steering wheel will be touch-sensitive icons for your volume and tuning for the radio, your heated steering wheel, and then on the left side will be the buttons that control that digital gauge cluster. Also with the Prestige, you will have a head-up display, keeping your eyes on the road ahead of you rather than looking down at screens. Now with this digital gauge cluster, I'm actually not a fan compared to the B9 and B9.5. I think Audi's virtual cockpit was very nice last generation, and this just isn't as in-depth. Yes, you can customize it to your liking, but I personally think that this isn't as intuitive as what we found in prior model years. And this is very similar to other digital gauge clusters in the luxury market, where they're a bit more trimmed down, not as in-depth, and I understand that from a safety aspect, but this just isn't as cool as what we had for the B9.5, but that's just my take. You can customize the information displays, though, on both sides of this screen, so that way you can display information that is relevant to you, including your turn-by-turn navigation. Now, taking a look at your infotainment system, this is an all-new Android-based software, which is actually still going to be easy to use and quite functional. It's just that this right here is a bit more confusing and in-depth than what you have for the older MMI user interface. At the bottom of the screen will be quick access icons for your dual zone climate control up front, AC, front and rear defrosters, fan speed and fan direction, then also your 3-level heated and ventilated seats. Then on the left side of the screen will be quick access icons for different menu layouts, such as your home screen, but then also a layout for all your widgets here, for your navigation, radio, Sirius, XM, phone, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay, vehicle, store, settings, driver assistance. All of this is right here within arm's reach. We see a lot of this now in the luxury segments, such as with BMW. BMW uses Android-based software as well. You'll also have icons for your navigation map, your radio, your Bluetooth, and also your vehicle settings. Also have a general settings tab here for connections, sound, display, Audi Assistant, privacy settings, functions on demand, apps, notifications, and storage. You can scroll through all this on your own time and at your own discretion. Then when placing the Audi Q5 in reverse, you are going to have a plethora of camera angles to choose from, such as a rear backup camera with trajectory, front-facing camera, side views, and a 360-degree top view camera, giving you a lot of visibility when you are parking on city streets or in a tight garage. Before we check out the rest of the interior, let's talk about the passenger side display here, which is pretty much the exact same layout as what you're going to find on the main head unit. So passengers can see the date and time. They can also see their remaining fuel range, which again, I don't think is really important for the passenger. They can't do anything. You're the one that's driving. Also, your radio settings from here. And then you will have quick access icons on the left side of the screen for your navigation map. Also, of course, that radio setting layout. Then you also have your widgets tab for navigation, radio, Sirius XM, phone, vehicle, store, settings, accessibility, legal notes, search. Again, I don't know why any passenger would find this interesting. For me, I think this is all unnecessary. I think a Premium Plus will make you more than happy, maybe even a Premium at around $54,000. But if you're someone who wants to entertain your passenger up front and your passenger likes taking control of the radio and the music that is going to be played during those longer road trips, maybe going with the Prestige is going to make a lot of sense for you. Continuing on, beneath the head unit, you will find your drive mode selector here for balanced, dynamic, comfort, and off-road. All drive modes will change up the steering input and also your throttle response as well, similar to last generation. You're going to have your auto start stop button, your hazards, traction control on and off button, and then you will have your dial for your volume and tuning here. Beneath that will be 2 USB-C inputs, a 12-volt outlet, and a wireless phone charging pad. For the center console itself, you will find that gear selector here, which is now going to be found in many new Audi products. Next, that will be 2 cup holders, and then you will have 2 buttons here for your park assist features and safety systems, which will open up a menu layout on the infotainment system. For the center storage compartment, there is enough room here for some smaller items, maybe a couple smartphones, wallets, or other tech gadgets, and also you can store your key fob here as well. And then to round out the front seating area, above will be a panoramic moonroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now for passengers in the second row, there is a lot to discuss here, not only for legroom, also amenities since we had the Prestige, but then also the seat positioning and the fact that the front seats are an obstruction. Now, the reason why this is the case is because Audi lowered the second row seats a bit to maximize that headroom, which I don't think was even necessary here, because I don't think taller passengers will be hitting their head on the headliner, even with that pano moonroof. Now, in regards to legroom, you're looking at right on 38 inches, which is pretty much identical to last generation. And just like we saw with the exterior, the dimensions don't change, despite the fact that this is built on a separate platform compared to the MLB Evo platform that we had for the B9.5. Shoulder room wise, there's plenty of it, but I don't think you'll be squeezing in a third person in the center because the center hump is very aggressive. I will say this, that the second row for the B10 Q5 is very similar to a Grand Tour. This actually has a very Grand Tour style to it, which some of you might actually really like out of a crossover in this market. By having the Prestige, you are going to have heated outboard seats and also climate control. So that way passengers in the back will be nice and warm or cool depending on the time of year. You're also going to have 2 USB-C inputs and 2 center mounted air vents. And by going with the Prestige, you are going to have sunshades, which will block out the haters or block out the sunlight when you are on your smartphone or tablets. And then to round out the second row seating area, you are going to receive a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Making our way around to the back one more time to take a look at the rear cargo area. By going with the Prestige, you are going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right on 26 cubic feet of room, which is identical to last generation. As we talked about before, the dimensions both for the interior and exterior have gone untouched, despite the fact this isn't built on the MLB Evo platform. However, the biggest difference here is that beneath the floor mat, at least for our model today, we do not have a spare tire. So by not having that spare tire, there's a lot more cargo space to work with. Now I know a lot of you will be clamoring for that spare tire, and rightfully so. For the cargo space itself though, I think you're going to have no issues here loading all your gear or luggage if you are going on a longer road trip with a family. You could probably store 9, 10, 11 bags of luggage with ease. Now the biggest difference though here is that on the left side of the cargo area, you will have 2 buttons that will lower and raise the rear suspension. So that way when you are loading stuff up here, you're not scratching that bumper. That is very rare to find in the compact crossover market. So I'd like to see that. Then on both sides of the cargo area will be quick release latches that will conveniently lower the second row seats. And when they're not in use, you're looking at right on 54 cubic feet of room, once again identical to last generation. Overall, this is very competitive with the Mercedes-Benz GLC, Alfa Romeo Stelvio, Genesis GV70, but again does fall short compared to the BMW X3, and we saw that with the B9 and B9.5. But overall here, in regards to practicality, everything is untouched, and I think a lot of you are going to appreciate that. But what about the driving experience? With Audi no longer utilizing the MLB Evo platform for the Audi Q5, A5, obviously the A4, I've had my reservations and I have had my concerns because the predecessor for this generation might go down as being the best generation for the Q5, for the A4, for the S5 Sportback, etc. And with this platform that Audi is now utilizing, it's very similar to what is being used for their EVs. You see that with the design. It looks like an Audi Q6, and it drives like an Audi Q6. There is times being behind the wheel where I forget that I even have a gas motor under the hood. That's how quiet and smooth this crossover really is. But with that, there's this uncanny sensation of a lower center of gravity and a lot of weight beneath me. I've never experienced this for a crossover in this market. With a BMW X3, you have the sports tune suspension, you have a crossover that's very performance oriented. With the Mercedes-Benz GLC, built on a platform solely for gas-powered vehicles. But because there's so many similarities to this platform to the EV platforms that's for the e-tron lineup, I'm noticing all of that under one roof, and it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird, to be honest. For one, this crossover is dead silent. This Turbo 4 does not make any noise. The 7-speed dual clutch is very buttery smooth. I mean, way too smooth. And the steering input and the handling has this weight to it that again reminds me of the Audi Q6. It's not helping that the entire dashboard layout is what I experienced in that Q6. Now, is this a bad thing? Is this a negative? That really comes down to what you're looking for right now in a crossover in 2025. This is really bridging that gap even more than anything else we've ever seen, because you would have hybrids that would be that nice bridge between gas-powered motors and EVs. But this, with a mild hybrid system, I feel like I'm driving an electric crossover, but you're not dealing with the charge times or the range anxiety. So this is almost a great way to get buyers into that market and into that way of thinking for one more generation. Now, I will say that the way Audi has tuned the suspension, the way it glides over the roadways, very nice. This is luxurious. Comparing this to the B9.5, this is much more of a smoother and refined experience. However, I wouldn't say, at least in day-to-day driving and when you are in the city and suburbs, that this is a sportier experience, but we'll find out when we take this crossover on the highway. Another major difference here compared to the prior generation is that you don't necessarily feel as though you're a part of the chassis, you're sitting on top of it. Whereas with the B9, B9.5, there was at least some engagement there. There was some connection to the crossover and the platform that you were sitting on top of. Whereas for 2025, not so much. Again, it kind of reminds me of an EV, but also you have a higher seating position as well. So you have a nice commanding feel and presence over the roadways. Now, in regards to the overall vision of being behind the wheel of the Q5, very similar to the Q6, the A-pillars are not that aggressive, so I don't think you'll be dealing with any type of blind spots when you are approaching intersections or red lights. Taking a look at your side mirrors, they are massive. They are huge. I can see what's in my blind spots and in the lane next to me. And then looking out back, we have that hatchback design, so I can see what's directly behind me, even with the headrests in the way. Also, another thing too, since the dimensions aren't changed for this generation, which I think is rather surprising, you have a lot of shoulder room here. You don't feel cramped or claustrophobic up front. And honestly, from a maneuverability standpoint, there really isn't much of a learning curve here compared to the B9 and B9.5. So let's place the Audi Q5 in dynamic mode and see how it responds. Now, we do have a bit more horsepower and more torque, so it should be quicker in a straight line. And again, it's buttery smooth. Buttery smooth. Even when you're on throttle, it's pretty quick. It's very responsive. Let's use these paddles. Pretty good, pretty good. But nothing too different than what I would expect out of a DCT. Now, steering-wise in sport mode, it does get very weighted. It gives you some feedback here, but again, with this having a lot of resemblance to that Q6, maneuverability isn't going to be your issue. It's not going to be the lack of cornering ability. You're not going to notice a lot of body roll here. It's going to come down to the fact that this doesn't feel as sporty as the B9.5. And that is the learning curve from one generation to the next. That yes, you have the lower center of gravity, you feel the weight beneath you, but it doesn't really translate to the steering input of this crossover. Now, maybe with the SQ5, that'll be a bit of a different story. I will say, though, that I see Audi's vision here with the B10, that this will likely be the last full gas-powered generation for the Q5, and all they're doing is utilizing the platforms that they're now engineering. And you could say, well, that might be some cost-cutting measures, right? And maybe it is, but I think in 2025 and manufacturing gas-powered vehicles, this would be the most efficient way of doing that. And to be honest, I really don't have a problem with this platform, having experienced it for the past 30 minutes. But let's go on the highway here. Let's see what the Q5 is capable of. I'll tell you, I really like this 7-speed dual clutch. On the brakes, nice and strong. Heading to the corners. Handles them well. Handles them very well. Now at highway speeds at around 65 miles an hour. Road noise is not too bad here. And also, I love the technology that we now have on the gauge cluster here. It's very similar to what Tesla's offering. So that way you can see what's in your blind spots, you can see what's in front of you. Really good stuff here. But I think now, more than the B9 and B9.5, Audi is leaning heavily into the luxury aspects for this crossover, because even with the Q5 for the B9.5, it was fun, it was engaging. The B10, I don't want to say it isn't, but it's a different animal in the Audi product line, and also for the lineage of the Q5. This is a bit of a different experience if you have owned Q5s in the past. And I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but it's just that it will take some time to get used to and understand that Audi is moving in a different direction. So all in all, after this quick test drive, the B10 is different. I might just leave it at that. It's different. Very similar to the Q6. It feels EV-like, which this might be a trendsetter in this market moving forward. But I think that if you're someone looking for an experience like that, but you're not ready to give up your gas-powered model, this is a happy medium, and also, I think, a compromise for Audi. Technology-wise, there's a lot of it. Comfort-wise, I think with this suspension, especially on the higher end with the Prestige and this adaptive suspension, you're going to be gliding over the roadways. I don't want to say it feels Porsche-like, but there's some similarities there. It's just that with the driving experience and the performance and the handling, for me, this wouldn't be my taste. I think for someone looking for a luxurious experience, yes. But if you're looking for a sportier driving feel, sportier driving characteristics, you're going to want to go with the SQ5 for 2025 and moving forward for this generation. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys next time.